Before this goes any further, I need to be clear about where this is coming from. This is not commentary. This is not theory. This is not something I learned secondhand. I am not speaking about the ground. I am speaking from it, from lived ground, walked ground, ground that remembers what was done in my name before I ever had a choice, from what was normalized, from what was inherited without consent, from what was buried so others could stay comfortable. This is not an argument, it's a reckoning. So listen slow, not for agreement, for recognition. What was done in my name by changing winds. I did not wake up free. I woke up trained, trained to thank systems that never asked what they took, trained to confuse survival with loyalty, trained to call the cage tradition. Before I knew my own voice, I knew the cost of using it. I learned early which questions made rooms go quiet, which truths made adults nervous, which words were allowed only if spoken softly and only toward the powerless. They called it order, they called it faith, they called it respect, but what they meant was, don't interrupt the machine. I come from bloodlines that were renamed, repackaged, and preached over, from ancestors told their prayers were dangerous until they were useful, from hands that worked land they would never own, for wages that disappeared before dignity could take root, from stories passed down in fragments because full truth was punishable. I was not raised to belong, I was raised to behave, to fit inside expectations that shifted whenever I got close to understanding myself. But silence was just the price of entry, and healing was something other people were allowed to define. I watched names change while power stayed put, watched apologies arrive without restitution, watched progress get announced every time the violence learned better language. They told me to move on as if the past wasn't still collecting interest in my body, in my family, in my breath. They told me to be proud of a country that never apologized to the ground it stands on, only rebranded the theft. I did not inherit guilt. I inherited consequence. I inherited systems that benefited from my silence. They told me to be proud of a country that never apologized to the ground it stands on, only rebranded the theft. I did not inherit guilt. I inherited consequence. I inherited systems that benefited from my silence. And when I finally spoke, they said I was divisive, ungrateful, dangerous, as if truth becomes violence only when it stops being convenient. So let me be clear. I am not asking permission to remember. I am not asking forgiveness for refusing erasure. What was done in my name still lives in the ground, and I will not pretend it's holy just because it learned how to hide. This is not where it ends. What you just heard was not the whole story. It was the exposure. The moment the soil breaks open and you realize what you were taught to stand on was never neutral. In the next piece, I'm not talking about systems anymore. I'm talking about inheritance, about what gets carried quietly, about how memory moves through families long after the language is gone, about the things we were told didn't matter because naming them would cost too much. If this stirred something in you, don't rush to explain it away. That reflex is part of what I'm naming. Stay with it. The next video goes lower, closer, more personal, not to shock you, but to show you how deep this ground really goes. If you want to keep walking, subscribe. If you know someone who was taught to survive instead of speak, share this with them. And if you're not ready yet, that's honest. This isn't content. It's a path, and this was only the first step. This is the ground.